Hey guys, it's Kaylee. I'm back with another what sold from last week video. Man, it's been a crazy start to the year. I'm still trying to catch up on what sold videos. I think I'm getting there and then stuff just happens. So bear with me, but I'm going to continue chunking away at this and sharing with you guys what is selling for me on eBay and Poshmark. If you guys are new here, every single week I come on and I share what is selling for me on both of those platforms. Hope to give other resellers an idea of what they might be able to pick up in their area and flip online for a profit. Plus, it's just a great way for me personally to track what it is that I'm doing in my business and how it is working or maybe not working from a month-to-month basis. So we're just going to dive right into these numbers.
All right, so we are going to be looking at December 31st through January 6th, which is a Sunday through a Saturday. This is the week right after Christmas week and the first of the year. So I really like to track sales around the holidays and make notes of them for the following year. Because it's just good to track year to year. If the same thing is happening during certain holidays where, you know, sales weeks are slow, but then they pick up the next week, that's good information to know on a year to year basis. So you can kind of plan for those slower or busier and you need to ship more stuff out time periods. So for me, sales definitely increased since the last report that I showed you, which was the Christmas week, which was very, very slow for me. This is more of a normal week for me. And I expect that for the rest of Q1 that things will start to slowly taper out until, you know, we hit summer slowdown. And then hopefully start back up in Q3 and Q4. So that's usually what I see happen in my pre-owned clothing stores. So for this week, in total, I sold 219 items for gross item sales of $7,338.70, making my average sale price $33.51. Not bad. I would like to continue increasing that closer to $40 and be able to maintain between $35 and $40, which was something I was able to do for a very long time when I was just reselling as a hobby and on my own. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that. Slowly inching there every single week. Some weeks I make it, some weeks I don't, but definitely have seen a huge improvement over the last few months as we've really had that initiative to increase our average sale price. On eBay, I sold 121 items. On Poshmark, I sold just 98. You can see the split between those two here. eBay is still top dog. It had an average sale price of $40.35, which is amazing. And then Poshmark was around 25. So that's what's really dragging that average sale price down, where older items are selling. And I believe I ran a closet clear out this week, which is probably why this average sale price is a lot lower, just because we were moving older items. So let's dive into the sales. I do have some new brands to show you, as well as just some categories that you might want to be thinking about. And as a reminder, a lot of this stuff is thrifted by myself, just in my area. Some of it is from wholesale, and it's wholesale. When I say wholesale, I mean people that are also thrifting wherever they live and then sending items to me. So it's all thrifted, but I thought it's worth mentioning every now and then to remind everybody where all of this stuff is coming from. And it is possible to find this stuff in your own area. Even some of the stuff that I pay up for is stuff that I found in my own area, just like behind the counter where they price stuff up at thrift stores. So this first one is a vintage Nike NFL Oakland Raiders heavy varsity jacket. If you guys see any kind of really heavy duty like leather or satin or really any kind of heavy duty jacket that is sports team related and it is a popular sports team, I would definitely look into it, especially if the brand is Nike. Really good profits on a lot of stuff like this, and it's pretty easy to look up. For instance, on this one, I just looked up Nike team, because that makes a little bit of a difference. Nike team Oakland Raiders jacket. and just started going through the comps, started narrowing down my search by including the word leather and bomber and maybe the size, and realized that there was a pretty good market for it and they were going for quite a bit. This one was a little bit more of a vintage one, and you can see there were a lot of holes in the wool, which we made sure to note in our description and also in the condition description here. Even with that, I knew that it was a pretty rare item, so I listed it high and was accepting best offers and was just going to let the market decide. This one actually sold the next day after being listed. Somebody sent me an offer for $136, and I went ahead and accepted it due to the condition. Really good return on my investments, and definitely something I'm going to keep my eye out for in the future. And if you've got something that not everybody else has, the market only has a few items out for it, I definitely think it's worth risking it. If maybe there's flaws in the item, you definitely want to do your research and know that the market is there and that somebody might buy it with, flaws. Not to say to pick up everything with flaws, but sometimes it can be worth it to still pick an item up. All right, next up is a designer brand. This is a Nine or a Nina Bing. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but here's the label for you. This can be a really great brand to pick up, especially if you can find stuff in better materials. This was an alpaca wool sweater, and I was not sure where to price this, so I listed it for $150 or best offer. This one did take several months to sell, but it did sell on an offer to watcher for $125. So that was pretty good return on investment. And this, in my opinion, is a brand worth getting. And, if it takes several months to sell, it's fine for me because it always ends up selling for quite a bit. Next up is a newer brand to me. It is the brand Pury, Purdey, for anybody that's just listening. This is kind of like an outdoorsy brand. It is, I think it's made in London. Let's see here. Does it say? Made in Italy, my bad. But very high quality brand, and their vest had a really good sell-through rate. This was a reversible vest. It had wool and like a canvas material on the other side. This unfortunately did end up having some flaws to it, a couple of stains on the tan part of it. So because of that, I listed kind of on the lower end and added best offer and figured, again, kind of like that Oakland Raiders jacket, that there was still a market for it. I listed this for $200 or best offer. Someone sent me an offer for $120, which I went ahead and accepted. I can't remember. I feel like this might have been a piece that got returned for fit and then relisted and sold again. But however, this time it did sell and it is being used by the buyer. So it ended up selling for $120, but definitely a brand to be on the lookout for. All right, next up is another kind of bolo brand. This is St. John. St. John is not as good as it used to be. It used to have a very high sell-through rate. People used to pick it up no matter what it was. That has since kind of died down. So I'm usually looking for their like knit pieces. This is a knit blazer. I don't even think this, I'm not sure if it was their Santana knit or not. I don't think it was. I think it was just more so a knit blazer. But it was new with tags, which was what really drew me to it. So for all of those factor stacking reasons, I picked this up. I listed it for $125, sent out offers to watchers, and somebody accepted an offer to watcher of $106 for this item. Kind of like that Anine Bing item. Sometimes designer pieces like this one are worth getting and just waiting for the right buyer. Next up is a very interesting piece. I did get this in wholesale. This is Margaret Godfrey. This is a very interesting suede furry jacket. You can see just how crazy the faux fur is here. Very like Y2K grunge. My wholesaler Trash Pandas actually gave me some of these keywords like Penny Lane. If you guys see anything like this, I've sold a couple coats like this now and they always fly really quickly. So definitely a style to look for. And Margaret Godfrey seems to have a really good following in these types of coats. And and seems to be a bolo. So I listed this one for $125. Someone sent me an offer through a message and asked if I would sell it for $100. I said absolutely and used the reply with offer button, and it sold the very next day. So very happy with that sale. I probably could have priced it a lot higher and then just waited several months for the right buyer, but you guys know I am trying to make a quick flip, and I thought that that was an awesome return on investment. All right, next up, this is an example of something that I bought behind the counter at a thrift store. I paid $25 for this, but every time I find vintage Coach bags like this, I know they're always going to flip quickly and for at least $100. So I have no problem paying up for stuff like this. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I feel like I've talked about it at length in the last few videos, but if you guys come across a vintage Coach bag, definitely worth getting. These styles do really, really well. This one was called the Willis Bag, and I listed this one at $100. There was a little bit of wear to everything, but otherwise in good condition for its age. It did sell for my full asking price, and this one took about 3 weeks to sell, but again, sold for full asking price. And for a $100 item, selling in a few weeks is really, really fast. Next up is a brand I really like to look for during this time of the year, during fall and winter. Although I will warn you, today is actually the middle of January when I'm filming this, and I am seeing a huge shift in what people are buying. People are starting to look for spring and summer items, and like everything, like probably 75%, not everything, 75% of what I'm selling right now is like shorts, tank tops, linens, things like that. All of a sudden people just started buying that. So stuff like this, unless it's a big bolo in winter, I'm starting to slow down on, and that's just, you know, my personal choice because I want to stay ahead for the seasons. This, however, is a bolo that I'd probably get all year round, which is a Pendleton kind of hunting style jacket. It's got elbow patches on the back. You guys can see this structure back here. This is very popular, and that's what initiated me to use the keyword hunting jacket. It's just a certain style of a blazer that people are really looking for. So this one I listed for $75, and someone did purchase this outright at full asking price. I paid $6.99 for this, and this took about a month to sell. Next up, another bolo in the winter is Men's Vineyard Vines items. Specifically, they're like knits and things like that perform really, really well. I was lucky enough to get this in wholesale, new with tags, and you can see just how much some of the Vineyard Vines pieces retail for. So although a lot of their stuff is pretty oversaturated, there are certain key pieces that can perform really well. This would be one of them, and this is even something I would have gotten pre-owned. It's called the Oysterman mock neck sweater, and it was made out of merino wool. So that material really helped to elevate this, and obviously the new tags helped to up the price. I listed this at $75. It did sell for my full asking price, and this one did take several months to sell, mainly because I listed it at the end of September when things weren't quite that cold yet. But good return on investment, full sale price. Next up is a brand I would definitely keep your eye out for. It is Birkenstock. It's always popular, but I feel like it's had a little bit of a resurgence, especially in these more unique styles. So this is called the Roseme Suede Clog. You can see it's definitely got a little bit of wear, but otherwise in good condition. As long as the tread is good on stuff, I feel like Birkenstock people just don't care. I think they're willing to clean stuff up, but if there's a lot of chunks missing out of the heels and stuff, I usually leave them behind. This one I listed at $75 because it was such a unique style, and it did sell for full asking price, and it only took a week to sell, so definitely high sell-through rate on that style. Next up is a kind of Y2K sale. This is Juicy Couture, which if you find the right piece, the very like Y2K stuff, it can definitely sell well. You can see this had a lot of Y2K elements to it. So this was a really interesting handbag. It's got the Juicy spell out, which is really good for Y2K fans. We listed this at $75, and someone accepted an offer to watcher of $64, and this one took about a week to sell. I also like selling their like Y2K velour sweatpants in that brand. All right, next up is an interesting swimsuit brand. Like I said, people are already buying summer stuff, so definitely want to start learning those bolos. This is called USwim, and it's made in England. Anytime I see anything made in England, I always look it up. This one is kind of like a knit stretchy material, which there's been a few brands now that I've received in wholesale that are very similar in like fabric, and those tend to be really popular brands. So if you see any kind of swimsuit with this material, I would definitely look it up. So like I said, this is called USwim. It is a one-piece swimsuit. I even think it was one size fits all. I think that's what that brand's known for. I listed it for $90. There was like an oil spot on the back. And even with that flaw, it sold on an offer to watcher for $76, and this only took about 3 weeks to sell, which is insane because it sold in December. All right, next up, actually the next two sales is a brand that performs really well for me during spring and summer, so I thought I would mention it here since it is already selling. It is Poetry. Their linen pieces are very high end and perform really well. I was lucky enough to get 2 of these linen dresses slash, this one is like a nightgown dress, or it could be worn as a dress, new with tags for each of those. So really helped to elevate the value, but this is definitely a brand in linen pieces that I pick up even pre-owned. So one of these sold for $60 and the other sold for $50, but all around good return on investment on both, and definitely a brand I would look for. All right, next up, this is a very particular niche I like looking for in shoes. It is like chunky Y2K heel stuff. It could be boots, it could be sandals, it could be sneakers. It really doesn't matter if it's got that chunky platform Y2K look to it, regardless of brand I pick it up. This one was by a brand that I am not familiar with and doesn't typically perform well. It is Amanda Smith. There's a big difference in comps when you look up Amanda Smith shoes and Amanda Smith chunky Y2K boots. So those keywords really make a big difference when you're trying to comp stuff. But I would say if you find anything like this, I would get it. I flip stuff like this, and anytime I see it, I get it if it's in decent condition. And it always sells for like $40 to $60, sometimes close to $100 if it's a bolo brand like Skechers that does really well in the chunky Y2K stuff. So these I picked up. I just made up a priced them in the middle at $50, which is usually where I can sell them for. They did sell for my full asking price, and they took only a month to sell, which for a style-based pickup is really good. And I just found this at a thrift store, and I think no one else picked them up because, you know, they're not a well-known brand, but I knew that the style was good. So keep your eye out for those shoes. I sell a ton of them. And if you are going to get them, make sure to include some good keywords. This one I included chunky, platform, and Y2K. All right, next up, this is a newer brand to me. It is Willis and Guer. This is a definite bolo, specifically in their vintage flannels. Very thick flannel. You can see it's got a really cool eagle embroidery here. Depending on the colorway you have, this one also had elbow patches, so a couple things that elevated the price a little bit. But definitely a bolo to look for if you come across it. I listed this for $60, and it was pre-owned, and it sold for my full asking price. This only took 5 days to sell. Crazy good sell-through rate on that. Next up is a newer brand to me. It is called Thomas Pink. I assume it's a designer. I, to be honest with you, don't know much about it. The only reason I looked into it was because it was 100% cashmere. Anything 100% cashmere I am looking up, especially if it seems like it is a specific designer piece, which this one ended up being. It's also a really great brown color. If you guys see like a caramelly or a camel brown like this, it's going to increase value quite a bit. I listed this one for $60. It sold for my full asking price, and it sold the same day that I listed it. Next up, also something I look for pretty much during all times of the year, is Aran Crafts or any kind of Irish made sweaters. This is a very chunky knit sweater with lots of cable knit detail in merino wool. Aran Crafts is definitely a bolo brand within that particular style. I listed this for $60. It sold on an offer to watcher for $51. And it only took a couple of days to sell. And this is another thing I'd probably get in the dead of summer, just because I know it's a huge bolo in winter. Next up is Johnny Was. I think we all know that Johnny Was is a good seller, but sometimes I like to show the pieces that are selling, because sometimes I think we overlook things just because we don't realize that the brand sells something in that category. For me, I didn't know that Johnny Was sold t-shirts like this, so I thought I would share that with you guys. There could be some stuff hiding in the t-shirts. I listed this for $50. It was called the Naomi Favorite Border t-shirt. It sold for my full asking price, and it only took a week to sell. Here's another Pendleton item. Anything Pendleton paired with Aztec or Southwestern looking stuff, equestrian, is definitely going to add a lot of value. So this is a good example of that in a women's piece, and something I would definitely pick up in the middle of summer as well. Listed this for $50. It sold for my full asking price. This one did take several months to sell, but I also did list it towards the end of September, so I think that is why it took so long to sell. All right, next up is a new brand to me. It's called Pacero. There have been a couple of wool dress pant brands that I've just come across recently that perform really well. I got this one in wholesale, and that's how I found out about it. Pretty good comps on this one. You can see pretty plain dress pants, but they were made with Loro Piana fabric, and that is the big difference. So this brand pairs with them a lot. I listed these for $45. They sold for my full asking price. And let's see, they took a couple of months to sell. I listed these back in October. All right, this is also a newer brand to me. It is called Babette, and I probably would have picked this up regardless of brand, but this brand makes really wacky art to wear stuff like this, and this is very on trend right now, so I would keep your eye out for stuff like this. And also this brand Babette seems to be performing really well. I listed this for $55. Someone accepted an offer to watcher of $47, and this one only took 3 weeks to sell. Here's another brand I like looking for in fall and winter, and also a brand I'd probably get in summer because it is a huge bolo. It is Ibex. Their wool pieces perform extremely well, and they usually have this little logo on the back. This is a women's wool. Is it wool? There's no material tag, but I bet you it was a wool blend. Full zip vest. We listed it for $45 or best offer, and somebody just bought it outright at the $45. Next up is a bolo brand in the men's pants and jeans. It is Mugsy. Very good sell-through rate on this, but doesn't always sell for a ton. It depends on the style and size you have. These were called the Morgans, and pretty good return on investment on these. I listed these for $40. They sold for full asking price. These did take a couple of months to sell, but for full asking price, that's pretty good. Here's another Vineyard Vines piece. This is called the Saltwater Zip Pullover. I was lucky enough to get this new with tags, again helping to increase the value a lot. Just a men's quarter zip pullover in a size large, listed it for $40. It sold for my full asking price, and it sold within 3 days. So definitely some bolos in the men's department during winter in this brand. Next up is kind of a style-based pickup. This is the brand Asos, not typically a brand that performs really well. However, this is full sequin, and you guys know all over sequin stuff I look up heavily because it's just very unique and it tends to sell well for me. So I listed these at $40, which was kind of a made-up price, and they sold for my full asking price. These did take several months to sell, but I am glad that they ended up selling for full asking price. Here's another piece that we got specifically because it was 100% cashmere. It's called 360 Sweater. This one was really cool because it did have a star graphic on the back, which really helped to increase the value. This did have all over pilling and was also missing its drawstring, but because of all the other factors, I knew that it would perform really well. I listed this for $50. It sold on an offer to watcher for $39, and it took a couple of weeks to sell. All right, next up is a bolo brand in the men's department. It is Buck Mason. A lot of their stuff only sells for like 20 to 25 bucks. However, this is a very specific piece. It's called the Field Spec Rugby Crew. You can see it's kind of got like a military look to it. These had really great comps. I listed this for $45. It sold on an offer to watcher for $38, and this one only took 3 days to sell. All right, next up is a women's brand that I really like getting. It doesn't have 100% sell-through rate anymore, but I still like picking up the silk tops because it's what they're known for. It's like their core pieces that everybody knows them for. And even though I usually have to sit on them for a little bit, they usually end up selling for 35, 40 bucks. So I just really like selling them. It's Equipment Feem, known for their silk tops. This one was a really pretty long sleeve button down with kind of like grungy floral to it. I listed this one for $38. It sold for my full asking price, and it took a couple of months to sell. Next up is a brand I like getting in spring and summer. Disclaimer, specifically in plus sizes. If you get anything less than plus sizes, it's probably not going to sell for very much or very quickly, but their plus sizes every year seem to perform really well. So this is a size 1X midi length dress, helping to increase the value with the length and the size. This we listed for $35. It did sell for our full asking price, and it only took a week to sell. Next up, this is CP Shades. This is a good bolo to be on the lookout for. They make a lot of linen, sometimes rayon pieces, but I thought I would share this one with you because for a long time I didn't know that they made men's stuff. And so if you come across it, I would definitely see, is it men's, is it women's? And I've also noticed that they do not follow the button rules. So trying to figure out which side the button's on are not going to help you. You really want to look up the style. So this is a men's CP Shades linen button-down shirt. Listed it for $45. It sold on an offer to watcher for $38, and it took about a month and a half to sell, but good return on investment. All right, next up is an equestrian brand called Carrots. I have sold a lot of this brand. They make women's and kids stuff, and both perform well for me. I don't know, I'm not sure if they make men's, but I just know that I've sold a lot of this brand, mostly in their like equestrian leggings, the breeches. So I've never come across a like pullover like this, but I figured it would be good since the pants are always good, and I took a risk. Listed this for $34, and it did sell for my full asking price. This one took about 3 weeks to sell. All right, this is a brand that performs really well for me in spring and summer. It is called Cut Loose. If you find anything linen in this brand, very good sell-through rate on this, and specifically if you can get it in larger sizes. This one's just a size medium, but larger sizes and linen in this brand perform extremely well. This one is just a little cowl neck linen blend top. I listed it for $30. It did take several months to sell, but it sold towards the end of December for my full asking price of $30. And I always love showing Old Navy sales because a lot of people think you can't flip this brand, but there are key pieces that sell really well. For us, it's plus size longer length dresses. This is a size 4X floral maxi dress. Lots of like cute on-trend details like the ruching here and the kind of puff sleeves. I listed this for $24 because there was a small run in the fabric. Had there not been that flaw, I would have listed it probably closer to $30 or $35. And this one did sell for my full asking price, even with the flaw of $25. And this one took about a month and a half to sell. All right, moving on to the Poshmark items. I really like showing these because these do not perform well on eBay, but they do perform really well on Poshmark, which are Wideleg Anthropology pants. It seems like in just about anything Wideleg and one of the Anthropology brands I can sell for 30 to 40 bucks all day long. So it's really good bread and butter for me. These are just a pair of Maeve Anthropology Wideleg pants. They sold for $34. All All right, this sale is really cool because I found this hat at the bins and I almost left it because there is significant wear throughout, and you can see I even put significant flaws throughout. This was a waxy cotton, very stiff. You can tell it had gotten wet at some point. Very stiff Filson hat, which Filson is an amazing menswear brand to look for. But this had so much wear, I was really hesitant on picking it up. Here's the label. The inside of it was really bad too. There was like really bad cracking here, which I thought might be super uncomfortable for someone to wear. You can see a little bit better here. But I did some comp research. I found some exact ones that had sold that were in similar condition. And so I felt pretty confident getting it. Like I said, I picked this up at the bin, so probably because of weight, I paid less than $1. I listed it for around, I think, $65. Someone accepted an offer of $57. $57 for something with significant wear. So there is definitely stuff to be saved out of the landfill, and people are looking to buy stuff like this. So keep your eye out for that. Next up is a brand I get in pretty much everything I find if it's in good condition. It is Reformation. This is the line Reformation Jeans. This is just a little like loungewear, sleepwear set, just crop top and shorts. It sold for $34. This is a bread and butter item for me, but I do like getting them. Nike, like newer style sweatshirts and hoodies, especially in the men's, can always go for like $25 for me. So if I find them cheap, I usually get them. This is just called the Clubfle Pullover. It sold for $25. Here's another Equipment Femme top. This one was also silk and it sold for about the same price, $34. This is a bolo brand in the women's department. I don't pick up everything in redone, but specific styles can do well, and also larger sizes. This is a size 32, which is a pretty decent size. Button fly, distress, they sold for $35. This is another brand of like wool pants that's performing well. It is called St. James. Wide leg wool knit pants. It went for $35. This is a bolo brand, but the sell-through rates really drop, so it depends on what you get. This is Double D Ranch. This one is a size large women's textured jacket. You can see it had some really cool ornate buttons to it, and it was a size large. I listed this pretty high in the beginning and have since dropped my price. I ended up accepting an offer of $68 on this, but there are some key pieces in this brand that sell for a ton, and there's also some that don't sell for very much, and it's just kind of the risk you take, and I would heavily research the style. This is a bolo brand I'd pick up in just about anything. It is Alpen Rock. They are really well known for these Henley tops, and this one was kind of a more highly sought after, more rare colorway and embroidery. It had kind of these like ski slopes embroidered on it, which I found was a more rare one, so I listed it high, and it ended up selling for $112. And even there are more plain ones that don't have all the embroidery, usually sell for like $65, $75, sometimes $85 pre-owned. So absolutely a brand I would keep your eye out for. Another brand I would pick up in summer, even though it's a wintry brand bolo, it is Icebreaker. They also make wool stuff. This is a merino wool polo shirt. This sold for $27. I think I originally listed it for $35. Here's another bolo brand I would pick up all year round. It is Frank and Eileen. I have not found one single thing in Frank and Eileen that doesn't sell well. This is called the Mary shirts, and one good thing about this brand is they almost always have the style name on the inside tag, so it's super easy to list. Because this was a shirt dress, their shirts perform really well also, but their dresses go for crazy amounts of money. I listed this for $185 originally. I can't really remember, but it ended up selling on an offer for $165, which is just insane. So definitely keep your eye out for this bolo. This is another kind of bread and butter item for me. I sell these a lot. This is a J. Crew women's blazer. It was called the Lexington wool blazer. I probably listed this for around $40 and accepted an offer of $35. It was missing a button on the sleeve, otherwise I probably would have listed this closer to $50. Next up is a new bolo brand to me. I've just recently started getting this and selling it. It is Margaret O. Specifically, their sweaters seem to perform really well. This is a hand knit merino wool sweater and it sold for $65. I definitely keep your eye out for this label, and then depending on the piece, you know, check your comps, but it does pretty well. And lastly is another bolo brand. This is one I have not found anything that doesn't sell well. They make men's, women's, and kids, and even the kids stuff sells really well. It is Aviator Nation. And one thing I've learned about this brand is it kind of looks very faded and all over pilly, and it's just kind of how that brand is made. Obviously, wash wear can take, take a toll on it, but in general, if you're coming across it and it feels that way, it's probably still worth picking up. This is a women's boyfriend t-shirt, and it actually had spots of glue on the back, which we made sure to note in our description, and it still sold for $35. So definitely a bolo you do not want to miss.
All right, guys, so that's it for what sold last week. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching. If you're not already, don't forget to subscribe down below. Hit that notification bell if you want to be notified every single time I post these videos. That's it for now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.